Let me tell you something most people will never say out loud. And once you hear it, you will never look at older women the same way again. Because there are certain truths about life, love, money, and human behavior that only time can teach you. And an older woman, she doesn't just know those truths. She has lived them. She has paid for them. She has suffered for them. She has lost people, trusted the wrong ones, forgiven too much, stayed quiet too long, and carried pain that nobody ever noticed. But here's what's terrifying. The moment an older woman finally wakes up, she becomes the most dangerous person in the room. Not because she wants revenge, not because she wants attention, but because she stops needing anyone. And that is what scares people. Because when a woman stops needing approval, she becomes untouchable. When she stops explaining herself, she becomes unstoppable. When she stops revealing her plans, her pain, her love life, her finances, she becomes a mystery. And people fear what they cannot control. But listen carefully. Most older women don't lose because they are weak. They lose because they trusted the wrong people with the wrong information. They told their pain to someone who smiled and later used it against them. They shared their plans with someone who secretly prayed for their failure. They revealed their happiness to people who couldn't stand to see them at peace. They showed their kindness to people who only knew how to take. And what happens next is brutal, because the world doesn't destroy older women loudly. It destroys them slowly through manipulation, guilt, emotional pressure, and betrayal disguised as love. So if you are an older woman, or if you know one, or if you want to become wiser before life teaches you the hard way, stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal is not motivational, it's survival. And if you understand it, you will protect yourself in ways you never imagined. Let's start with something most people don't want to admit, but every older woman eventually learns the hard way. Pain is not just an emotion. Pain is information. Pain is history. Pain is evidence of what you've survived. And when you speak about it openly, when you hand it to people too quickly, you're not just sharing your feelings, you're giving them a map of your most sensitive places. And the truth is, most people don't know what to do with that map. They don't hold it with care. They hold it with curiosity. Some hold it with judgment. Some hold it with entertainment. And some hold it with quiet intention, waiting for the right moment to use it against you. This is why older women must be careful with their vulnerability. Not because vulnerability is wrong, but because vulnerability is sacred. And sacred things should never be placed in careless hands. A younger woman often believes that if she opens her heart, she will be understood. She believes that honesty automatically creates closeness. She believes that if she explains her trauma, her mistakes, her fears, her heartbreak, people will soften toward her. But life doesn't always work like that. Because the world is not built for emotional honesty. The world is built for emotional advantage. People don't always listen to understand. They listen to respond. They listen to compare. They listen to categorize you. And sometimes they listen to collect information. That's the uncomfortable truth. There are people who will smile while you speak, nod their head, even say, "I'm here for you," and you'll feel relief. You'll feel like finally someone sees you, finally someone understands, finally someone cares. But what you don't realize is that not everyone who listens is loyal. Some people listen because they want to feel superior. They want to say to themselves, "At least my life isn't that bad." Your pain becomes their confidence. Your suffering becomes their comfort. Other people listen because they want to gossip. They take your private story and they retell it, not because they hate you, but because they are addicted to attention. They don't realize that repeating your pain is a form of betrayal. And then there are the most dangerous ones, the ones who listen patiently, quietly, the ones who don't interrupt, the ones who look like they understand you deeply. But inside, they're not feeling empathy. They were taking notes because they know something that most people don't understand. The fastest way to control a human being is to learn what hurts them. Once someone knows what you fear, what you regret, what you are ashamed of, what you are sensitive about, they don't have to fight you. They don't have to scream. They don't have to insult you directly. They just have to bring up the right sentence at the right time. They can say one thing and watch you collapse. That's why you must be careful, especially as an older woman. Because by the time you have lived long enough to become wise, you've also lived long enough to have scars. And those scars are not small. They are deep. They are personal. They are layered. You've been through betrayal. You've been through rejection. You've been through disappointment. You've been through moments where you questioned your worth. You've been through nights where you cried in silence, where you held your own hand because nobody else did. And when you talk about those moments, you think you are being brave. And you are. But bravery without boundaries becomes self-destruction. This is where older women have to evolve mentally. They have to realize that healing does not require public confession. Healing requires internal discipline. Healing requires emotional privacy. Healing requires wisdom. Because when you share your pain with the wrong people, you don't become closer to them. You become smaller in their eyes. They start defining you by your weakest chapter. They stop seeing you as the woman you are becoming, and they start seeing you as the woman you once were. The woman who was broken, the woman who was lost, the woman who was struggling. And even worse, some people start using your pain as your identity. They don't say it directly, but you can feel it. They treat you like you're always the victim. They treat you like you're fragile. They treat you like you need saving. And what happens over time is that you start unconsciously performing your pain for them. You start staying in the story because it gets you sympathy. You start repeating the trauma because people respond to it. And before you realize it, you are no longer healing. You are living in a loop. That's why emotional privacy is not coldness. Emotional privacy is intelligence. Some women think that if they stop sharing their pain, they are becoming heartless. No, they are becoming wise. Because pain is not meant for everyone to touch. Think about it like this. If you have an open wound on your body, do you allow random people to touch it? Do you allow everyone to press on it, ask questions about it, examine it? Of course not. You cover it, you protect it, you treat it carefully. You only allow a doctor or someone trusted to come near it. But emotionally, many women do the opposite. They walk around with open wounds and call it being honest. They allow anyone to touch it, and then they wonder why it keeps bleeding. This is why I'm telling older women something very direct. Stop over-explaining your life. Stop giving people access to the parts of you that are still healing. Stop making your trauma a conversation topic, not because you should be ashamed of it, but because it is precious, it is private, it is powerful. Your pain is not a weakness. Your pain is proof that you survived, but survival stories should not be handed out like free samples. There is also another reason why older women must hide their pain, because the moment people know you are hurting, they start seeing you as an opportunity. Some people are attracted to wounded people, not because they want to heal them, but because they want to control them. A wounded person is easier to manipulate. A wounded person is easier to guilt trip. A wounded person is easier to keep dependent. And this is why many older women end up in relationships where they are emotionally drained. They end up with people who sense their loneliness, who sense their past heartbreak, who sense their fear of starting over. And those people know exactly what to say. They know how to look supportive in the beginning. They know how to sound kind, but their kindness is not love. It's strategy. So you have to understand something very important. Your vulnerability is not a gift to give to everyone. Your vulnerability is a privilege. It should be earned. It should be protected. It should be shared slowly, carefully, and only with those who prove through consistent behavior that they are safe. Because DS mean nothing. Consistency means everything. A person can say they care, but do they show up when it matters? A person can say they respect you, but do they protect your name when you're not in the room? A person can say they're loyal, but do they keep your secrets when they're angry with you? That's the real test. Older women must learn to measure people not by how warm they sound, but by how stable they behave. And when you start doing this, your entire life changes. You stop being emotionally available to people who don't deserve it. You stop giving sympathy to those who only want attention. You stop allowing people to study you. You stop handing them the keys to your emotional house. And this is where your power begins, because when your pain is protected, your confidence grows. When your wounds are private, your healing becomes faster. When your story is guarded, your peace becomes stronger. You become harder to manipulate, harder to shame, harder to control. And that is the goal. Not to become cold, not to become distant, but to become unbreakable. So remember this, your pain does not need an audience. Your healing does not need permission. And your scars do not need explanation. Because the strongest women are not the ones who tell everyone what hurt them. The strongest women are the ones who quietly heal, quietly grow, and then return to the world as someone nobody can touch again. And here's the final truth I want you to sit with. Not everyone deserves to know your story, because not everyone wants to see your ending. Now let's go deeper, because this next point is where most women unintentionally destroy their own progress. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack strength, but because they underestimate one simple truth about human nature. People react to your plans before they react to your results, and that reaction can be deadly. One of the biggest mistakes an older woman can make is announcing her next move too early, telling people, "I'm going to change my life," telling people, "I'm starting over," telling people, "I'm building something new," telling people, "I'm finally leaving this situation," telling people, "I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to travel, I'm going to find love again." It sounds harmless. It even sounds inspiring. But psychologically, it triggers something in the people around you, and most women don't see it until it's too late. Because when you announce a goal, you don't just share information,